All right, that was President Ramnath Kovind addressing the nation, and this speech gives a direction that the Prime Minister's speech is likely to take place tomorrow on Independence Day, when the Prime Minister speaks and addresses the nation from the ramparts of the Red Fort. He began by invoking the values of Mahatma Gandhi, saying that Mahatma Gandhi's teachings continue to guide us today. He also spoke about the recent decisions revoking the special status for Jammu and Kashmir. He said that this has immense benefits for the state of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Remember, both of these will now be union territories. He said that people in these areas will be able to reap benefits of right to education, RTI, the triple talaq law. And he also spoke about the recent elections and the productive session of Parliament. Let's go across to our guests this evening. Let's get your reactions on the President's speech. Geeta Bhatt, well-known academician, is joining us. Geeta Bhatt, you've heard the President's speech there. He focused on Article 370, revoking of special status for Jammu and Kashmir. Also how this government is focused on making it easier for people to live and easier for them to seek opportunities. What direction do you think the Prime Minister's speech is now going to take?
Well, I think, the President's speech, as you have just outlined, had focused on something very important, and that was, Mahatma Gandhi, who had talked time and again about, his principles of living, as he had written in his book, Hind Swaraj, where he said, that the politics is basically the means for helping out people and for social development of the country. And the theme to be on the same lines when the Prime Minister of the country is going to address the nation. The main focus will be on the issue that India as a country which has its secular values, not just because it has been written in our constitution, but culturally also. We have had secular ethos, in our civilization, in our culture. And that is the secular ethos which today needs to prevail all across the country. So, especially vis-a-vis when talking about, the abolition of the Article 370 and Jammu and Kashmir. The true integration of Jammu and Kashmir,
I would just like to ask you.
An issue.
Yes, the President did outline that this will bring immense benefit to the people of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. But don't you think and don't you agree that it's now important for the Prime Minister and the government to give a roadmap to normalcy for the people in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh? Right now, you have heavy troop deployment, police deployment across Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. There are restrictions on communication, restriction on movement of people across the state. Don't you think that a message of normalcy, a roadmap for normalcy, must be given by the Prime Minister from the ramparts of the Red Fort?
Well, the road for normalcy has already begun in a way that, in Jammu, largely, the large part of Jammu has already been, relaxed, and there is already, normal traffic flying in Jammu, as well as, in Srinagar and in some other areas. Also, it just needs to be given time, because considering that, the sensitivity of, of the area, especially with respect to our, hostile neighbors like Pakistan, who have been, a breeding ground for inflicting terrorism and terror-related activities in our country, that it is well established now. And especially considering that, the whole, even internationally, if we look, the countries have been largely coming out and they have supported India. In fact, in Bahrain, there were some Pakistanis who were trying to, hold up a kind of a protest, in the garb of celebrating Eid. They had detained them. So this kind of, there has been a support not only across the country, but also internationally also, considering that this is an internal issue of India, which needs to be resolved as the government of the day feels is required. So definitely it just needs to be given a little time.
Geeta Bhatt, I'll request you to hold on for a second. We have A.K. Bhattacharya, veteran journalist, joining us as well. Mr. Bhattacharya, just to focus on the economic front, the industry is asking for a stimulus package from the government. The whole of last week, there were several meetings. Each day, there were different sectors meeting the finance ministry, meeting the finance minister, asking for some sort of package to boost their respective sectors, especially the auto industry. The president spoke about ease of living. He said the government is continuously working to provide better livelihood and opportunities to people, better electricity connections, water, toilets, drinking water for all, irrigation water for farmers, tackling water scarcity. Communication services are now being increased across the country. What is the larger message you see in all of this, and what kind of message would the industry be looking for?
Well, if you are talking about the Indian industry's expectations of a fiscal stimulus measure and hints coming from the president's speech, I think that would be a wrong expectation, because the president's speech is not meant to address those concerns. The president's speech before the Independence Day is essentially a speech that tries to encapsulate what the government actually intends to do in spirit and letter in terms of development and growth for the country. And from that perspective, I think the two clear takeaways from this speech are as follows. One, I think the president has given strong emphasis on the need for strengthening transportation infrastructure in the country, and I think that there are clear messages there that what needs to be done in terms of air connectivity, what it needs to be done in terms of railway connectivity, what you need to do in terms of ports, what you need to do in terms of roads. I think that focus is very clear. And the second takeaway for me is that he is actually complimenting his government for a wonderful session of Parliament that was just been concluded, where a large number of bills and the laws were made. You may have debates over what kind of laws, but the fact of the matter is this, that at least there were 2 or 3 critical economic laws that were taken up. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code is one of them. The Medical Commission Bill is another. So I think the president is focusing on 2 areas, one on infrastructure, and the second on how Parliament can be made more effective in framing laws that improve the ease of doing business as well as ease of living.
All right.
I don't think the president can probably give a hint on stimulus or not to the industry.
All right, so we will probably look for that hint and headline from the Prime Minister's speech when he speaks at the Red Fort tomorrow. Mr. Bhattacharya, Geeta Bhatt, thank you very much for joining us. So that was Ramnath Kovind addressing the nation, telling us about his vision for the country, also recapping some of the achievements of this government, also in the last Parliament session, which he said was the most productive in several years. Thank you very much for joining us.